Whenever we want to reach a new goal, level up in some way in life, or reach a new position at work or with our company, it is easy to think about all the things that we need to start doing. New habits we need to start doing, new personal traits we need to start to cultivate, etc. Or things we need to learn. But one thing that is also very often overlooked is things that we need to sacrifice to reach that goal. Maybe it is negative personal traits we have or negative habits that we need to sacrifice in order to reach this goal. In the last video I talked a lot about that comfort kills, that if we only do things today that are comfortable, that feels good in the moment, we are sacrificing our future. We're not getting as much as we could from our future, and we could self-sabotage our future. And to me it can be really eye-opening and clarifying to see that, okay, this list of habits or things is something that I need to sacrifice to get what I want. And it can also be really relieving to see that list and see, of course, yeah, I'm totally in for it. I would totally trade that for something better tomorrow. So writing a list of things that we need to sacrifice today in order to achieve a goal that we want can be a fantastic exercise, and I highly encourage you to do it. Some examples of things that I've sacrificed in the past that has really enhanced my life have been things that I'm allergic to, or things that I cannot eat, to really cut them out from my diet. That has had an amazing effect on my health. Limiting time on social media and blocking certain apps on my laptop, for example, or on my phone. In the past, when I did that freed up enormous amount of time that I could use to study subjects that I really wanted to excel in. When I started to track how much money I had, I saw that I needed to sacrifice a lot of impulsive spending so that I could keep that money and invest that money instead. So this is a fantastic tool to get more of what you want. So I recently made this exercise again, and I want to go through the list with you to share what's on my sacrifice list at the moment. So the first on the list is low leverage or low paid work. And what I mean by that is work where I work 1 hour and I only get 1 unit of money or energy back. So there's no leverage involved. Or it could also mean very simple tasks that someone else could easily do and that would not be very expensive. Because it is very easy to think that if we need to save and keep our money, we need to do all tasks ourselves, and we cannot hire someone else or have someone do tasks for us, and we should do every little small thing, and that is the way to go forward. But actually, if we can stop doing low pay work, low leverage work, then we can actually excel faster, because we can spend more time on high leverage things. Tasks where we put in 1 unit of energy and we get 2, 3, 4, 5 or 10 back. So the next on the list is the FIRE lifestyle. And I think when I started becoming interested in personal finance, that was kind of a first goal that I set up for myself, to have enough resources so that my assets would cover all my expenses. Basically, the return of the assets would cover all the expenses. And as soon as I reached that goal, that became extremely boring, because I think that we are creative human beings and we need to be involved in really creative, fun, amazing projects each day, and spend our time and focus and energy doing those things. And I really think that does a lot of good for us. So for me personally, I want to clear out all the small crumbs left of the FIRE movement of my system. So the next point on the list is overconsumption of news. Because suddenly, when I have had more time to do whatever I want, then I have spent a lot of that time watching news, looking multiple times a day on my phone on the news. But it would be much more beneficial to replace that with high quality books, education, and courses on subjects that I really want to master. So less time spent on news, more time spent on education. The next point is an old way of thinking that I've had from when I started my journey with running a business or personal finance. And that has to do with trying to think that I can save my way to wealth. And that may be very true in the beginning, but very soon it becomes much more efficient to focus more on increasing one's earning than just limiting expenses. Because with limiting expenses, there is really a limit to how low you can go, so to speak. Let's take the example of groceries, for example. If you buy the most expensive groceries, you go to the most expensive store to buy groceries there, or you go to the cheapest store to buy groceries there. Maybe you can save for one person $200 a month or something, or $200-300 per month by doing so. So by having a focus on reducing costs, perhaps you can lower your expenses with $500 to $1,000 per month, for example. But if you instead would have had a focus on increasing your earnings, then there's really no limit to this. And we can see this with highly successful business owners, for example. They just expand their business and expand how much profits and earnings their businesses produce. So it would be much more efficient to focus more on increasing earnings than reducing costs. Both are important and they have a balance, but if we can focus 80% on increasing income and earning and 20% on reducing costs, I think that is a good balance to this. The next point is following the advice of family and friends. They probably have their own agenda of what they want for you. They probably have the agenda of maximum safety or what would make them feel safe in the moment. Your family will probably also give you advice aligned with their political views, their interests, the family's reputation, and so on. So if we listen too much to our parents and follow their advice, chances are that we will be less rational and make the wrong decisions. So we really need to make our own research, think independently for ourselves, and make decisions after this process. And the next point is a follow-up on the previous one. Blindly doing things to be liked. So it can be by our partner, family, friends around us, co-workers, etc. If we do things only to be liked by others, then we will be less rational and we will do stupid mistakes. And psychologically, we're really programmed to do that because it is in our interest to be liked by others, to be included in a group, to be liked and loved by other human beings. So for important decisions, it would be much smarter to have our own measurement stick. It could be in income, it could be in happiness, it could be in growth of net worth, for example. Another trap that's easy to fall into is that as soon as we have accomplished something, that we fall into a role of being a superior human being or something, or having a snobbishness. This behavior is really bad because what we want to cultivate a trait of warm and friendliness towards others, because they might refer us new clients in the future. They might bring us business, and that personal trait of warmth and friendliness will really have positive ripple effects for us for the rest of our lives. The next point on the list is dressing lousy. And because it's easy when we work from home to only wear comfortable clothes, because we think, it doesn't matter because no one will see me when I'm working here. I only call people on the phone, for example. This is something that I've worked with before also, and I can really see the importance of it. For example, when I was in my 20s, when I had a sales job making cold calls, which was an extremely tough job, I noticed that if I wore a suit jacket, I spoke differently on the phone. So even though people could not see me, I got into another role when I dressed well. And it's also something that I see. I have one friend in Stockholm who is an investor, and he has his office at home. And whenever I see him, when we have had meetings on the Google Meet, or if we have met in town, he dresses like exceptionally like he works in a big office. So in suit pants, white shirt, well ironed white shirt. And so I really think to myself that, okay, that is a really smart move, because when he wakes up in the morning and he dresses well, when he sees himself in the mirror, he kind of puts an expectation of his own, of the output that he will get from that day. If he sees himself, here is a respectable, sharp person in the mirror that takes care of themselves, then that kind of leads to, one thing leads to another, and they kind of expect more of themselves, and then he gets better results in his work. But if we only wake up in the morning not taking care of how we look because we think we work from home, when we see ourselves in the mirror, we think, this person doesn't really look like someone who produces results, doesn't look successful, or doesn't look sharp. Then we start to have a more lousy energy when we have calls with people or when we have meetings. So sacrificing looking crappy is a fantastic way it's an easy way to increase our output every day and increase the results, because we change our self-image basically. When we see ourselves in the mirror and we see, this looks like a really respectable, efficient, this person looks successful, then we will act accordingly. The next point on the list is blaming the war in Europe or the economy, that we are in a downturn in Sweden, because this is such an easy excuse not to perform. And if we fall into that way of thinking, well, if we think that it's impossible to do business when there's a war in Europe, it's impossible to do business when the unemployment rate is high, it's impossible to do business when the economy is bad, for etc., then it will be impossible, because we set our own reality. We write our own truth. If we say these things and think these things to ourselves, it will be impossible, because we write our own truth. We choose which glasses we put on each morning. Evidence of this is that many great companies that exist today were built during the Great Depression, during World War II. So when many businesses have gone under, thrown in the towel, and ended up bankrupt because of uncertainty, these companies found a way to get around it. They were more flexible. They found a way to get new customers. They found a way to reduce costs. They found a new way to survive, or to find a new way of doing business during this time, and they survived. And that's why they are so big today. So it's a great lesson we can learn from these companies. So the last point on my list is having too much free time. That is something I really want to sacrifice. So many people are wasteful with their free time. Many people spend 3-4 hours a day scrolling on social media, which we now know is really bad for us. It's bad for our brain, it's bad for relationships, and it doesn't really have any positive effects on our life. And having too much free time is something that I don't really enjoy. I want to fill my days with productive work, study, exercise, and family. Filling the days with activities that compound in the future and that creates the good life. So I gladly sacrifice what I've written on this list in order to increase the positive compounding in the future. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.